Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for checking out my channel. I really do appreciate it. On this episode, I'm taking on the monumental task of discussing which is Rolex's best tool watch. The Rolex Explorer II, the Rolex Explorer 40, or the Rolex Submariner date. Let's get into it. I think I'm going to need a drink with this. My name is Shane Walls and I make my living as a fine art nature photographer and explorer. I've come to truly depend on my tool watches when I'm out in the field. Whether it be timing my hikes or timing my camera exposures, tool watches are an intricate tool in my photography process. And these episodes on this channel are based on my amateur watch collecting journey as I search for that ultimate tool watch. And hello, we are back after it's been about a month and a half or so since I've posted. I apologize. Summertime is our crazy busy time. I had 3 art shows going on, traveling, doing this test with these watches. So I appreciate you guys holding on. I apologize again. It's been so long since I posted. Here we are with a dilemma already at the start. I've been testing all 3 of these watches out for the last 2 months, and it's been so difficult because they're so really alike when you break it down. I couldn't pick a winner. It was all just personal preference and changing by the day. So I thought, I'm going to take a step back, go have a fun little vacation out in this remote cabin up in the mountains, go do my photography, test out these watches, but more as a day-to-day, not just focusing on my photography and having these out in the field, just as an everyday experience with these watches. And let's just see what I come up with. So let's go out in the field here when I was out in the photo shoot to get started. Now, when I gave myself the task of figuring out which is Rolex's best tool watch, the Rolex Explorer II, the Rolex Submariner, or the Rolex Explorer 40, I ran into a problem right away. Well, you know what? Problem might be too strong of a word. I ran into somewhat of a dilemma, let's say, in the way that all 3 of these watches are incredible on their own, and the only thing that's really going to separate them is my personal preference. Now, I might have jumped in, I don't want to say the Rolex bandwagon, because Rolex watches are extremely tough. I hope I've proven that on this channel. It was just one of those things where when I first got into luxury tool watches, I tried the Omega, I tried the Breitling, I tried the Panerai, and right away they all broke on me. Hell, I broke a G-Shock right away when I'm out in the field. Given the Omega didn't really break, it's just the AR coating started peeling off. But that's another story. So when I got my Rolex Explorer II, I was almost dumbfounded about how really unbreakable, reliable, accurate, and tough it really was, especially after these other watches failed me. So maybe I jumped in a little bit too early into the Rolex pond, so to speak, because now I've had my Rolex Explorer II for about 2.5 years, the Submariner about 1.5 years, and the Rolex Explorer 40 for 5-6 months now. And comparing them all together, again, my personal preferences are going to kind of get in the way here. And I came to a final conclusion that I never thought I would come to after testing these watches together in all these different environments, art shows, out here in the wilderness, beach, desert, everything. I was very surprised on my final conclusion. When I first started this exercise to see which one of these watches is the best tool watch from Rolex, I got these charts together, I checked out all these other channels to see how they rate watches, and I realized halfway through this exercise, my numbers would constantly change depending on what I was doing. So now let's just talk about these 3 watches just by the numbers. Because if you look at it that way, they're pretty much identical. Now let's go with the real life numbers. Accuracy. My Explorer II and my Submariner date, they average about 15 seconds fast over a month. So over each day, that's less than a ½ second fast a day. The Explorer 40, with the way I'm using it, it's about 6 seconds to 8 seconds fast a month. This one does vary though. Sometimes it's a ½ second fast, sometimes it's ½ second slow, depending on the day, depending on how I use it. So let's just say all these watches, accuracy-wise, are very, very good, and we can't really separate them in that way. Power reserve, same idea. They're pretty much all 70 hours. Real life, they all last just above 70 hours. The Submariner, I'm averaging about 73 hours of power reserve. The Explorer II, about the same 74 to 73 hours. And the Explorer 40, again, it's about 71 to 72 hours. Can't differentiate any of those in the way they're pretty much the same. Toughness, all three of these watches are extremely tough. I've hit them, I've bumped them. I did, like an idiot, like always, I did drop the Rolex 40. I was on dirt like this, so it wasn't too bad, but I did drop it. So these watches have all been dropped. They've all been banged to hell. They're all tough, extremely accurate, even after getting banged up. So there's nothing really in the numbers. They all have the special hairspring. They've all gone through airports. They've all had a chance to get magnetized. They never did. The Explorer II, go back to some of my older ones, we think it got magnetized, not 100% sure, but it fixed itself. So really, they're all the same toughness. All these watches are pretty much at home in any environment. Given the Rolex Explorer II and the Submariner Day, it's kind of a faux pas to wear them to high-end formal events. You can do it. You can wear them with a suit. It might not, some people, real watch enthusiasts, might frown upon that, but I've done it. It's no big deal. But the Rolex Explorer 40 does fit in a little bit better, as I can wear it on hikes, travel all over, and then wear it to a formal event with a suit jacket. These other two, not so much. They can pass. Again, personal preference, what you're doing. Functionalities, they're a little bit different. Rolex Explorer 40, it's a little bit more elegant, maybe a little bit more comfortable with the sizing. Obviously, the Explorer II is a GMT and the Submariner is a diver. So personal preference, right now I'm leaning towards the GMT. That is the most useful function for me because they all have 100 meters of water resistance. I'm not ever going down 100 meters. 30 meters is tops for me. So again, personal preference puts the Rolex Explorer II in the lead so far. But that being said, the rotating bezel function of the Submariner is one of the most used functions on these three watches that I use. It's so helpful in timing hikes, timing my printing, when I'm at home, all different things, even when I'm at the barbecue, using that as a timer because I hate carrying around my cell phone. I mean, right now, I do not have my cell phone on me. That feels great. So functionality-wise, it really depends either on the day, and this is where my numbers were getting skewed. One day I would say, oh, the Rolex Explorer II, this is the best tool watch, hands down, no problem. The next day I would wear the Submariner and timing my hikes. Oh, Phil, this is the best tool watch from Rolex. But then the Explorer 40, after a 12-hour hike, this was the most comfortable. But then sometimes I like a big watch. See, this is what I'm trying to say. It's personal preference. Let's dive into some more stuff. Sizing of these watches. Now, I've always been I like a bigger tool watch, so I've always been kind of a 42, 41 millimeter watch size guy. I do have to admit though, having the Rolex Explorer 40 has changed that. Now, it's not really 40 millimeters. It's actually just under 39 millimeters. I liked a bigger tool watch, felt like a tool on my wrist. It always inspired me to go out and do stuff. However, wearing this smaller watch now, it is superior in comfortability in almost every way. This smaller watch, on days like today where it's hot out and I'm gonna be hiking for, 6-7 hours, that smaller size watch is changing my mind a little bit in the way that it is comfortable, and now it's just kind of a mental roadblock to get me the smaller watches to inspire me. It is a tool watch, it's just smaller and more comfortable. I've just set up my own roadblock to make it think it's not. So moving forward, I might be going to a little bit smaller watches. The main purpose of my tool watches is to time my camera exposures. I use what's called a technical camera for the highest quality possible so we can blow up my images really big. Now with the technical camera, nothing on it is automatic, so I use my watch. Anything from a second up to an hour I time on my wristwatch. Now that leads me into legibility. All three of these watches are extremely legible. I would have to lean maybe a little bit more onto my Rolex Explorer II with the polar dial. It is the most legible and easy to see in low light. Lume, all these watches have amazing lume, so I'm not having a touch base on it. They're all tied on that. The polar dial helps me see at low light and through most lighting conditions. However, the Submariner is a little bit easier when I'm having, maybe a 3 or 4 second exposure. It's nice to use the bezel. to time my exposures and use that legibility of that watch in that way. Even more so, going to the simplicity of the Rolex Explorer 40, sometimes it's nice because since it is a technical camera, I have dozens of numbers going through my head at the same time. ISO, shutter speed, those kind of things. It's kind of nice just to look at a watch and have the simplicity of it, just to look at my time and not have to see, you know, a dozen other numbers. Now, the appearance and the look of these watches, I don't really care. They're tool watches, and I'm much more about function over form. And if I can just vent a little bit here, I do get a little annoyed when almost all the watch videos, reviews, they spend half the video or more talking about the looks of the watch. Who really cares? These aren't jewelry. These are tool watches. These are timepieces that have a function. They're designed to go out, beat up, keep accurate time. The looks of the watch aren't that important to me. Excuse the rant. However, I am going to say the Rolex Explorer II with its metal bezel, I'm looking forward to how that's going to patina because of the machine bezel, how it's going to take on the scratches, the dents, and show them and really look good, in my opinion, in 20, 30 years. You can say that too for the Explorer 40. Just that shiny bezel kind of just, it's a hit and miss for me. It needs to be really scratched up to look good. The Submariner has a ceramic bezel. It's been proven to be very tough. I stayed away from ceramic for a while because I thought it would break. It's very tough. The Rolex ceramic is very good. As for the best looking watch, in my opinion, again, this is all personal opinion, personal preference. It changes on a daily basis. Sometimes I'll look at the Explorer II and just see that polar dial with that big bright orange hand and think, God, it looks a little silly. It has a sense of humor, but it's such a good looking tool watch. I'll look at the Submariner one day and just think, oh man, just the design, the elegance, the simplicity of this watch. Nails it. It's so good. It's got that form and function going so well, that classic look, that iconic look. Go for the Explorer 40. Elegant, beautiful, simplistic watch with the history. And just depends on the day and again, the environment. You're seeing a continuation in this video about me saying that. It's just each day, depending on what I'm doing, depending on what I'm thinking, depending on the mood I'm in, which watch is the best looking to me. So I'm in the middle of filming and I just came upon a steaming pile of bear dung. As you can see here, some scat. So I think it's time we're gonna change locations here, move to a different spot. After finding that steaming pile of bear poo, I'm moving locations. I'm coming down the hill and I found this cool little game trail that's very well used. I'm no expert at tracking. I can definitely see bear tracks. There's like 3 or 4 of them. I can't tell if it's going up or down. So this could be an interesting hike back to the cabin. So this is the last time you see me. No, I'm kidding. Now that got me thinking, this bear thing. Now given I'm carrying 3 Rolex watches on me right now, which is not smart at all. And bear's not gonna steal the watches, but people will. So it's not smart for me to be carrying around 3 watches. And I usually never would, but do I need 3 Rolex watches? I've been pondering this for a while now, and this video, or making these, attempting to see which is the best tool watch, has got me really thinking about that. And would it be unfair to, leave watches at home? Well, I mean, I wouldn't feel right to just leave a watch in the safe and never really wear it. It's got me thinking, it really has. Hopefully I don't run into this bear. I'm carrying a lot of gear, and can you imagine someone finding my body and having 3 Rolexes in the backpack? Oh man. Okay, let's see how this audio works. It's just my GoPro off to the side in my pocket. So I came across a bear, and it looks like it's going down to the lake area. I have my 300mm lens. See if we can get some pictures of this bear. I don't want to get too close to it, since I'm in a pretty remote area and I'm not sure how much contact this bear has had with humans, so I'm gonna keep my distance, fall out for a little bit, and see if we can get any photographs of this beautiful animal. Thank goodness we made it back to the cabin. We didn't get eaten by the bear. But last I left off, do I really need three Rolexes, since they are so similar. And even with testing them throughout the last couple of years, put all three of these throughout the snow. We left them in the snow for hours. We left them outside, sub-zero temperatures. They don't waver in accuracy. So they're all so similar. It's just such a personal taste. And coming to my final conclusion, and this is what really surprised me, after the 2 months, taking a step back, just really looking at it in the way that, now, this is going to be controversial, might be a little bit of a rant, so I do apologize. I personally don't believe Rolex steel watches are luxury watches. I don't. I think they're really good, well-built, well-designed tool watches. And I can honestly say, I do not buy Rolex for the brand name, for the crown. Because, for example, look at this list. Go through all these, and if you needed a dependable timepiece that you relied on, which one would you choose? Exactly. And that's how I feel with these Rolex watches. They're not high horology, and I get that in my comments all the time when I do call them high horology. They're not handmade. These, I'm not even sure, no watchmaker really touches these watches until they're at the AD. They're all built by machine, which is fine. They're done well. They last forever. You can beat the heck out of them. They're great watches. Now, as a small business owner, I have to mention the resale value. Most watch collectors, as you go out and you buy the watch how you want it, and it doesn't matter if you lose money on it. As a small business owner, I always have to think, it's always in the back of my mind, it's always nice to know that worst case scenario, say I go out and break my legs tomorrow. I can't work for 6 to 7 months. I have no income. I have insurance for that, but it's not really going to cover everything. It's nice to know in the back of my mind, worst case scenario, I can get my money back for these watches if I resell them on the gray market or just resell them as a private seller. That's pretty amazing. Okay, now all that being said, on to my final thoughts. Which do I think out of these three watches is Rolex's best tool watch? To be 100% honest with you, I'm not sure. Now, see, I gotta think of how to put this. So let me just say, if the Rolex Explorer II had a rotating metal bezel, this would be the ultimate tool watch from Rolex. Hands down. Because I love the Rolex Explorer II. Like I mentioned earlier, the patina of it, later on, it's going to look the best. It's tough. I mean, these are all tough. I don't want to keep repeating myself on that. It's just going to look so good. It's got the GMT function, which is so helpful, and I can use it in a day-to-day environment. As well as, too, if the GMT time is set and S were to hit the fan, I could use this as a compass if I really need to. I don't think it's ever really going to come to that, but it's nice to think about. It's nice to know. So the Rolex Explorer II, it's my first watch. I have a special connection to it because it is my first real, I mean, heavy duty. Well, how do I even say this? I guess my first Rolex. So let's just simplify that. So I do have special, and it's been to a lot of places with me. I got a lot of memories with this watch. The Rolex Submariner date. It's such an incredible watch. The rotating bezel on this thing, it does everything. It's rough and tough. It can go down 300 meters. I'm never going to do that, but that just means it's got the toughness to handle other events, cliff jumping, surfing, all those kinds of things. It can handle that, and it's a good looking, elegant, well-designed, iconic watch. It's such a killer watch. Comfortable at 41 millimeters. The Rolex Explorer II, 42. It's a little big, but I kind of like it. It's a love-hate relationship with that sizing. The Rolex Submariner date, it does everything. It's just such a great watch, such a handsome watch. And like all these watches, it can be worn in a formal event. Maybe it shouldn't, but it could be. Not like the Rolex Explorer 40. It can be worn anywhere. Formal event, no problem. Anywhere out in nature, toughest environments. It can be worn anywhere. The one downfall, though, is it doesn't have a date function. Every day, day to day, that does bother me a little bit, especially when I'm out hiking and I'll go on these 2-3 week trips where I'll be gone. It's nice to have the date, or even when day to day, going to the bank and stuff like that, you know, I'll leave my cell phone in the car. It's nice to just look at your wrist and know the date. But all in all, just the true elegance and beauty of this watch, the history behind it, it's unbeatable. So all three of these watches are special in their own way. They're all so similar in the accuracy, the toughness, the durability. All these watches I can depend on fully now and in 3 or 4 decades, 5 decades even, if I take care of them. Begs the point again, do I really need 3 Rolex watches when they all pretty much do the same thing? They're my favorite watch on different days. One day, this will be my favorite. The other day, that will be my favorite. It all just depends on the mood I'm in. If I was forced to and had to make a decision for this video and I can only keep one of these watches, it would be the Rolex Explorer II. It's just the durability, the metal bezel. It's just got so much going for it. It is the toughest. I can smash it up against anything. It would be this one. It's the best for hiking. I think it's the best tool looking watch. So that would be my personal pick. But is there a Rolex watch out there that can combine the elegance, the simplicity, the history of the Rolex Explorer 40? Integrate the capabilities of the Rolex Submariner with its triple lock system, rotating bezel, and overall functional design, combined with the durability and toughness of the Rolex Explorer II, and not to mention the GMT function. There might be. Actually, I think there is. Is it beneficial for me just to move towards having that one watch, go back, because when I started this whole collection, when I started my journey here, I just wanted one watch and done. Now it's one of those things where I go to my watch box in the morning and just, oh, I want to wear this one, I want to wear, oh, but I want to, oh, I wish I would have worn this one. Is it better for me just to go back to a one watch collection and get that one watch that if you really combined all 3 of these, that's the watch you would have? I have to think about that. And now on my watch collecting journey, we'll be getting more into this in some upcoming videos, what I'm thinking. And of course, I'm saying this now and I just bought another watch. Again, we'll have some more videos on that. It probably would be smart to have 2 watches. Do I really need 3 Rolex watches that pretty much all do the same thing? And I know I'm going to get all these comments that they don't do the same thing. They're totally different watches. Look at the numbers. And please comment down below, what do you think? I'd love to hear. I'd love to go back and forth with you. I try to answer all the comments that I can, but be constructive about your comments. Let's have some back and forth on this, because I'm at a crossroads here, and I got some big changes coming up in my life. That it's not going to be so easy for me to be carrying around like I did today, 3 or 4 or 5 tool expensive watches, durable watches. They're tools, but they still are expensive. Be carrying those around in my bag. And I don't feel right with all the thought and design, manufacturing that went into these watches. I don't feel right just having this watch sit in a safe for a couple years. I'd rather have it be used by someone who's going to enjoy it. So we'll see. This, I know I've dropped a lot on you with this. I hope this answer is good enough for you. I did my best. I really tried to pick out the best Rolex Tool Watch. And it's different for every person. You go to Mike over there, he's going to pick a different one. You go to Joe over there, he's going to pick this one. You go to Sally over there, she's going to pick a different one. It all depends on what you do, what you're going to use them for. They're all just superior, amazing watches. Some of the best watches in the world, hands down, no question. It's just, what are you in the mood for on that day? But to have one watch that could do it all, share those memories. Do I go for that, or do I just keep the 3 and keep adding to my collection? We'll have to see. Thank you again so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you like what you saw, give us a thumbs up, hit subscribe, help support this channel. Go to my website, buy some artwork. We're really gonna start jumping in this channel a lot more. And now that we're back, we'll have some more videos coming out soon about a whole bunch of photography, a whole bunch of watches, a whole bunch of travel stuff coming up. Thanks again. Cheers.